Hello, Skin Angels, and welcome to the Skin Angels podcast. I'm Peter Liu, dermatologist, investor, and one of the founders of Skin Angels. Before we begin, a quick disclosure. Many of the companies we discuss are early-stage ventures, and I may serve as an advisor, investor, or collaborator with some of them. From time to time, other members of Skin Angels may also have financial interests in these companies. This podcast is intended for educational and informational purposes only. It reflects our opinions and experiences as clinicians, scientists, and investors who care deeply about innovation in dermatology and skin health. Nothing discussed here should be considered medical advice, investment advice, or a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Our goal is simple: to explore new ideas, highlight promising technologies, and help connect the dermatology community with the people building the future of skincare and skin science. Thanks for being part of Skin Angels. Let's get started. Today, I get to talk to Oliver Liu, co-founder at Topaz Biosciences and the Hypothesis brand. Thank you so much for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about your journey?
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Thank you for having me. So my name is Oliver Liu. I am co-founder and CEO of Topaz Biosciences. I am a scientist by training. So I got my PhD in molecular biology and biochemistry from UCSF. I did a postdoc at Stanford. The bulk of my career has been focused on what's called metagenomics. So metagenomics is the study of communities of bacteria and microorganisms, whether that's in the soil, in the hot spring, or on the human body, like the skin microbiome. About 4 years ago, my co-founders and I got really interested in the skin microbiome. As you know, over the past 15 years or so, the tools that researchers have to study and characterize the skin microbiome have improved tremendously. And so we know the skin microbiome plays important roles in skin health, including strengthening the skin barrier, training the immune system, preventing pathogens from colonizing. At the same time, we also now know that there are specific skin conditions like eczema and acne that are driven or exacerbated by specific species of bacteria overtaking the population. On the other hand, the products that we have to treat these conditions haven't changed in decades. We're still using all the same ingredients we always have, and they either don't address the skin microbiome, things like colloidal oatmeal or steroids, or you have ingredients like benzoyl peroxide, antibiotics, or disinfectants like hypochlorous acid that are broad spectrum, and they indiscriminately kill all bacteria, including the good bacteria that your skin needs to stay healthy. So that's the gap that we saw when we founded Hypothesis. You have these skin conditions that are crying out for a precision approach that's more than just kind of simply carpet bombing your skin microbiome.
I really love that. And I think it's one of those situations where new understanding of the microbiome has finally allowed us to approach it in a much more sophisticated and targeted precision way. And now new tools are allowing us to learn even more and so on. So we're kind of in this virtuous cycle of development. So I love the concepts. I feel like this is exactly what I want to be thinking about as a clinician. We want these strategic approaches, but how did you go about building this? Where did you put the team together and secure the resources and develop the actual products and formulations? Can you tell us a little bit about that part?
Yeah. So first is the idea. So we became really interested in this class of enzymes called lysins. Some people call them endolysins. The reason they're interesting is that they are able to bind to bacterial cell walls and chew them up very rapidly, cause the cell to die. What's really cool about them, though, is that because the cell walls of different bacterial species can be quite different, these enzymes have the potential to have super high specificity down to a single genus, species, or even a subspecies. And so theoretically, they could go and target one single bacteria within a community of many different bacteria, which is really kind of like a superpower, right? I mentioned the kind of broad spectrum ingredients previously. And we aren't the first company or lab to think about this, but there historically have been a number of challenges in terms of finding enzymes with the right specificity or having the requisite stability to become a formulated shelf-stable product. And so this is where we felt like our background in metagenomics and synthetic biology as a team really would let us kind of overcome these challenges. So first things first, we had to find a team. And so it's the most important thing. My co-founders, there are three of them, had all worked together previously at a different company that I co-founded called Radiant Genomics. They were some of the earliest employees there, and they helped build that company from literally my co-founder's garage to being acquired by a company called Zymergen. I stayed at Zymergen for another 4+ years, but when I left Zymergen, we all reconnected and got really excited about this idea for Topaz. So finding a team is super important. The fact that we had all already successfully operated and executed in a startup biotech environment was huge. It let us set up a lab, build out a space, get experiments going quickly and, importantly, very frugally. In terms of securing some of the financing, we were lucky in that some investors from Radiant were happy to invest in our new venture. Having said that, they gave us, we started out with about $500,000, which is not very much for a biotech company. And so having that experience of running very, very efficiently was critical. I think other things that we've done, we do have grants from the NIH. So I think for anyone starting out a biotech or working in this space, looking for grant opportunities is huge. Those funds are typically non-dilutive. The timelines for them can take a while to get them, but if you can get that kind of resources, it's an amazing way to build a company.
I really like it. It was very scrappy. You guys, especially for a biotech company, that's a pretty small amount of money, and you've done a lot. And frankly, you've made it look sort of easy, but I know it hasn't been easy. So could you tell us a lesson or two that you felt you had to learn the hard way? What were some challenges you faced early on or even continue to face that you feel like, wow, this makes it tough?
Yeah. I mean, I think, early on, we were really focused on the enzyme, right? So I mentioned some of the challenges in finding an enzyme that has the right specificity or, has the stability, thermostability, the pH stability that you need for a commercially viable product. And so, we saw these technical challenges. We thought we had all these clever ideas to discover and optimize enzymes. And we did do really kind of cutting edge stuff to develop these enzymes. But, looking back on it, we were only at the very start of our journey. I don't think we quite appreciate all the steps and the timeline involved in actually getting that enzyme into a viable product and into launch. So things like shelf stability, we thought, well, we'll solve it with the enzyme. Well, it actually turns out the formulation is the second part of that problem that you need to solve. And so it's not only, figuring out all the factors that might cause instability in the formulation and how to counteract them. These experiments take a long time. So if you want a 2-year shelf stability, even under accelerated conditions, you're talking about experiments that last 3 to 6 months in order to prove things out. Obviously, clinical validation is super important to us. We're big believers in being confident that our products provide the benefit that we think they should. But I don't think we necessarily appreciated, the time it takes to set up a quality trial, get a good protocol, recruit the right population. Another example, our products are OTC. Actually testing, setting up manufacturing of an OTC product, again, it's much more involved than I think we appreciated when we started. So we're a bit naive. I think sometimes naivete is good for the formulation part. I think it actually helped us to not have too many preconceived notions of what should go into a formulation. We thought we had it all figured out with the enzyme, and that was actually just the beginning.
It's amazing, right? The star of the show is actually only one part of a very large system, and it's a cog in a very large machine. I wanted to ask you two things. First, when you came to this concept, you probably had to make a decision at some point. Did you entertain the idea of maybe trying to make it a topical drug, like a prescription path or a device path versus OTC? And I'm just curious if that was an issue or something you did think about and how you made that decision, because sometimes we hear from other startups who have a product that could potentially cross, which is so cool about these licenses. Yep. They really could potentially be in various ways. Yeah. How did you think about it and how did you solve that?
Yeah, we did think about it. I think for us, it came down to a couple factors. One, to go for kind of drug route or a new drug. Obviously, the timelines are even. I talked about long timelines, but getting a new drug approved is even longer timelines, and the amount of funding and resources you need to fund that is significant, much more significant than we thought we wanted to go out and raise. So I think that's one factor. I think the other factor is that, and this is maybe a little more inside baseball, but just kind of the environment or the ecosystem for new brands and acquirers and growing brands and funding and things like that is we felt more robust on the kind of cosmetic skincare side than it would be on the drug side. And some people may disagree, but I think for us that seemed like the more viable option.
I love it. No, and we're absolutely about the inside baseball here. We love to hear this because we are often engaging in different ideas and business endeavors, and we love to learn because this is hard-won knowledge. So, and it's something that's changing. As you, I think, really nicely frame it, the FDA is not a static organization. And in fact, recently there's doing a lot of changes, undergoing a lot of change rapidly. And I think we're seeing that signal from multiple people that there's an increased pressure away from RX when possible to simplify, to keep costs down, and to make it more consumer. My kind of related question, and I'm also a big formulation nerd, I think it's one of the most exciting, interesting areas, but it's maybe even one step before formulation. It's just the format. I love the idea that you ended up with a spray. And I think that given the goal here of trying to be able to apply it to a large area and decrease bacteria, of this very specific strain, I think a spray is a really good answer. I know there have been other approaches. People might think a cream or a cleanser. Did you guys go through that format concept early on, and how did that play out?
Yeah, we did. We thought about creams, gels, sprays. I think part of that ultimately was technically driven. So I think creams we found to be pretty harsh on our enzymes. But I think we also thought about the user experience, as you're kind of suggesting. And we hear a lot about people with eczema on their back or in hard to reach areas, and they need a second person to be applying their moisturizers and creams, and sprays are increasingly popular. And so we felt like a spray format, while unusual for eczema, I don't think there's that, many people that we talked to said this was the first spray format they had for an eczema product. I think it's proven to be super popular.
I agree. And the early feedback I've had from my patients has been incredibly positive. And I think that that's a big part of it because, as you say, you could have the right ingredient, the right concept, but in the wrong framing, the wrong type of formulation, the wrong format, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't come together. So I love how you illustrate that. Now, those were some challenges. You definitely have made it through a lot of those challenges. Was there a specific moment, a turning point when you felt that things were starting to come together? You thought, boy, this actually might go somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know if we ever feel like we have it completely together, but I will say, I do remember, when it comes to the acne enzyme, as I mentioned, there are other groups and labs that have looked for these enzymes, and no one's ever been able to find it. I think people have been looking for over a decade, and everyone kind of looked in the same places, found the same enzyme. It didn't work very well, and so when we started our project, the acne project, we knew it very well might lead to a dead end. But we felt like if we looked in a more diverse, in broader microbial diversity, maybe we could find hooks to actually create an enzyme. And I remember there was one day, me and two of my co-founders were in the lab passing this petri dish back and forth, and we're looking for this like super faint halo on the plate, and we're like trying to convince ourselves that it was real. But that halo ended up being the first indication that we actually found an enzyme that had specificity for C. acnes. And it wasn't super strong, but it was the hook that we needed to actually, build up to a better enzyme. And then I remember a couple months after that, we go through multiple iterations of this enzyme and keep designing. And it was pretty late at night. I, tested this, looked at the computer that was kind of spitting out the results. And first time ever, we kind of saw a rapid drop in the amount of C. acnes. And I remember, I was by myself, but just sort of celebrating, thinking that, we actually solve this thing, and we might have something here that's going to help a ton of people, and it was created like at this very moment. So that was a nice feeling.
I love that so much. And I've sat on different advisory boards, sometimes for OTC, sometimes for RX products, where people will ask a question about what is known about something like this. And the best moment is when everybody around the room, pretty seasoned people, scientists, clinicians, researchers, everybody looks at each other and we're like, I don't think anybody knows. Like, I think you're at the cutting edge, and it really is a moment, right? You push forward, and people, of course, have had some things that can knock down C. acnes bacteria, but as you say, not this.
Yeah.
not like this and not in this format. So you really did, you watched a wall fall. You were able to push past a boundary. And I think that's so exciting to see where these things go.
Yeah, I always think, there's, you have a few moments in your scientific career where you're basically the only person that knows one specific piece of knowledge. You're the first person in the world to ever like discover this. And that was one of them. So I always try to savor that moment.
So you have come a very long way. And of course, you're continuing to build. Topaz is fairly young, but I love the fact that you have accomplished so many things. So if you could go back to day one or before day one, what piece of practical advice might you give yourself, or nothing? Would you say, just stay with it? We're doing okay.
I will say, I would tell myself that, you're going to be learning a lot more about things like social media, the meta ad algorithms, tariffs, stuff that, I would have never even been thinking about previously. And all those things are going to be important. And the sooner you learn about them and how they work, the better off you'll be. The other thing I would say is always stay optimistic. I tend to be pretty optimistic in general. I remember there's a quote where, pessimists are usually right, but optimists are the ones that achieve something great. So I think, it's part of science. It's part of starting a company, being optimistic and knowing that you will kind of work your way through whatever challenges, no matter how daunting they might seem at the time, is the attitude that you're going to need.
Over and over, we hear it. And it's so important. And it sounds like a platitude, and it is a platitude, but it's a platitude for a reason. That tenacity, that willingness to keep going and smile in the face of adversity, that's the difference. That's who makes it to the other side. I mean, literally, if you give up, you won't make it.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
I love the idea of the beginner's mind. When you enter a problem, sometimes I'm a crusty old man and I'm like, I don't know, I have 99 reasons why this isn't going to work. I need you not to listen to me now. I need you just to keep that enthusiasm, because that's, again, how we break through, right? You have to trust people to break through it. Otherwise, what's the point, right? We know that people can break through.
Yeah. Yeah. Like science, you can be wrong 99 times out of 100, but that one time could be the biggest discovery of your career. So
that's it. And we have to really make sure we protect that fire, and we have to make sure we tend it, because that's what keeps things moving. The motor of progress runs on that.
Yep.
Now, from this vantage point, you have a lot going on, but I'm curious about what you see in the future. And this could be opportunities in general that you now feel like are opening up in dermatology or skin health, maybe opportunities for Topaz or the Hypothesis brand. I'd be curious, in the next few years, what do you think are interesting areas or areas that are exciting to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think for Topaz and Hypothesis in particular, obviously the microbiome is continuing. We're just learning a ton about microbiome, right? And I think, the breadth of conditions, where we understand the role of the microbiome, and how it's contributing or affecting those conditions is going to just continue to grow. There's, those things are like, psoriasis, rosacea, seborrheic dermatitis. Even I saw papers around aging and wrinkles being associated with the microbiome. And so I think they're, understanding what role that microbiome is doing, and how we can, try to engineer it is going to be the future for Topaz and what we're focused on. I think things like scalp care is kind of immediate, next areas for our products. I think Staph aureus is increasingly shown to be playing a role in a lot of scalp conditions. I think longer term, obviously we're really gung ho on kind of this precision engineering of the microbiome where you remove bacteria. I think what will be interesting to see how it develops is just kind of this, this personalization idea around the microbiome and in skincare. I think one of the things that I'm still wrapping my head around is, we know we know the ways in which the microbiome can go wrong. So for example, overgrowth of Staph aureus. On the other hand, it seems like there's a lot of ways for the skin microbiome to be right. There's not one ideal skin microbiome that, is everyone should be striving for. And so kind of understanding how you, build back the microbiome, or like what are you trying to get to with the microbiome, I think is still something we need to figure out as a field. And, I think with more data, with maybe with some AI analysis and kind of uncovering of different patterns, that's where I think the future is, but I just don't know how close it is.
to a hammer, all the world is a nail. And so far, we've had these crude tools to work on the microbiome, but I love this thinking. Now we have more precision ways to get rid of things we don't want and potentially ways to add things we do and support things that we want. I talk about this concept as manipulating the microbiome, and we can push and pull, and it's going to keep getting more and more exciting. I feel like there's been an unveiling of this totally adjacent organ system, this super organism that we really are, that for decades we just didn't even think about. And now we realize it's playing a role in almost everything we do.
Yeah. And I agree. I think we're right at the cusp and forefront of really starting to be able to manipulate that microbiome in ways that we think are going to be beneficial. I think, like I said, removing them, that's the first step. But yeah, how do you start to build back that microbiome? That's going to be the next generation.
Amazing. And we are so lucky and glad that you're going to be part of the leaders of that movement and taking us there. I want to thank you, Oliver Liu, the co-founder of Topaz Biosciences and the Hypothesis brand. And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you at the next one.